Hello, and welcome to 3Crosses Woodcarving Video Podcast number 3. Well, I hope this finds you well, and I guess y'all all know the kind of week I had last week, but things are better now. I'm over being ill. My wife is too, and I've gotten a lot of things done to get ready to go to my carving show this weekend. This weekend, the woodcarving club I belong to, which is the North Alabama Woodcarvers Association in Huntsville, Alabama, is having our 26th annual show, and we're going to have it at the Roundhouse Depot by Von Braun Center over there. If you happen to be in the area, why don't y'all come by and join us? We'd kind of like that. We'd appreciate it. And today what I thought I would do on this video podcast, I'm going to answer some of the questions that I got in some of the comments on the blog site and on YouTube and also in email. I'm getting some really good comments, and I just ask you to go ahead and keep sending those comments, your critiques, questions you might have, and we'll try to get around to them as we do this show. Okay, now the first question I want to talk about, and this came from Ken, who actually is a guy that carves with me, and I appreciate his questions. But this is what he said. He said, how did you get started, and how did your interest in face carving evolve? And then I also got a question from Ken that's almost along the same line, so I'll answer both of them. And he said, how about showing some of your work carving pieces and perhaps some simple ones for the beginners? And we're going to do more of this later. But I got started carving really when I was about 8 years old. My dad did a little bit of wood carving. He carved on some gun stocks and things that we have. And I got interested in it. And at probably about 10 years old, I believe, the first thing I ever carved was a Bowie knife. And Dad gave, actually me and my younger brother both, a piece of cherry and some rasp and some files, and we carved a couple of Bowie knives. I've still got it somewhere, but I can't find it. I wish I could, because I'd like to show it to you. But that was my very first experience. And then sometime in the 80s, I had a friend of mine. I was living in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Guy named Norman Roscoe, and he was a wood carver, and he got me interested in carving. He showed me a little bit about carving, a little bit about how to carve a simple face, sold me my first set of Rammelson tools, and that's where I got started. And I rocked along and carved some relief carving and a bunch of little knickknacks like everybody does, but I kind of quit it for a while. And then I moved to Alabama in '93 and moved next door to another wood carver, and he kind of got me started again and introduced me actually to the club in Huntsville. I carved a couple of years, and then I got off into woodworking and building furniture and kind of quit. But about 5-6 years back, I decided to get back into carving, and I decided I wanted to learn how to carve faces. So that's where it really started. Now I'm going to show you some of my first faces and show you that learning to carve anything is a process. You've got to practice, you've got to study, you need to learn how to see. And it doesn't happen overnight. Now this first face here is probably one of the first faces I ever carved. You can see I carved it off a piece of square wood. It's not a very good face, but I didn't know any of the details or what a face really looks like. Here's another one along the same line. That's kind of a Daniel Boone. I think I carved him back in the 80s also. But as you can see, don't get discouraged when you first start learning how to carve, because it takes a while to get it. Now the first carving face that I really liked was probably carved about 5 years ago. I had a book by Pete LeClaire, and I had carved a couple of the heads in it, and I decided to come up with my own, and I had a basswood egg, so I carved this. Now this piece I entered in the first show I ever went to, and I was in the intermediate class, a beginner class basically, and I won a blue ribbon for this. I won a couple of ribbons actually, like second best to show for intermediate, but that's one of the first ones I ever carved that I was proud of. And along that same line, this is the very first green man I ever carved. Now I love the leaves. I did a good job on the leaves, but the face is not right. The nose is too long, cheeks are wrong, the eyes are wrong. But that's where I started. And I struggled on for several years by myself. I finally got to go to a couple of seminars, one with Jeff Ferris and one with a gentleman named Jim Wright. And both of those guys are some of the best in the country at carving faces. But by then I had learned most of what I need to learn, but they helped me refine my techniques. And now you can see I'm carving things like this. This is a wizard I carved. The features are right, the eyes are right. I developed my own style for carving hair, and I like it. And here's a little Viking that I carved not too long ago. Now both of these are going to be done as a video eventually in my Carving Off the Corner series, and also at some point I'm going to start teaching seminars, and it's going to be the Carving Off the Corner seminar. And these kind of carvings are what you see. And of course now, and this was actually carved a couple of years ago, I carve things like this. Now that's a pretty good face, and I like it. This particular guy has won several ribbons at shows. He's won everywhere I've entered him. So that's how I evolved in face carving. Now I've got another question I want to answer here, and this is from Ken. And Ken says, is there a way to be on an email alert when you publish a new video? Well, yes, there is. If you go to my blog site and you look on the right hand side, there's a link there that says subscribe by email. If you'll click on it and put your email address, your information in there, when I post to the blog, which I will every time there's a new video coming out, whether it's on YouTube or here, then it will send you an email telling you that. You can also subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and if you go to YouTube and click your subscriptions, it will show you the same kind of thing. So there's a couple of ways to do it there, and I'm looking into some other things, maybe setting up it'll be free, a membership on my website where people can do things. I got to work that out a little bit. Now there's one more question I want to answer today, and this comes from Ken also, and he says, what's your feeling about competitions? Well, it depends on what you want out of carving, really. If you just carve for fun and relaxation, you might not be interested in competitions. But if you're striving to become a better carver, or maybe a well-known carver, or if you're striving to eventually become a professional or an instructor, then you need to go to carving competitions, because that's where you'll sharpen your skills. You'll meet a lot of great people, and it's also where you get to be known. And along that line, I need to go to a lot more carving competitions than I get to. When I retire in a couple of years, I'll probably get to do more of that. And I need to carve pieces that are geared towards competitions. This year I've been so busy making videos, working on this website, and just busy in general that I hadn't even carved any pieces for competition. But that'll come. So I really like competition. I think it's a good thing. Sometimes the judging may be a little messed up, but not much you can do about that. So anyway, I'm going to cut this short right here, and I just hope that you guys have a good weekend and a good time carving. If you don't belong to a carving club, find one in your area. If there's not one there, start one. I started one here in Decatur. You can probably find 2 or 3 people that like to carve, and go ahead and start you one. If y'all happen to be in the Huntsville, Alabama area, come on down to our wood carving show. It's free to get in. There'll be about 30 or 40 really good carvers there. And hopefully you come by my booth and we'll meet. I enjoy meeting new carvers, and that's the fun of it. One of the greatest joys of carving is meeting the people, because they're all great. So y'all just keep on carving. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week. Oh, by the way, next week, hopefully I'll be putting up some videos. I'm going to take some videos at the show. I'm going to do some interviews with some carvers, hopefully. And I'd have a lot of good information to put up here on the site. So y'all check back with me next week. Just keep on carving. Bye.